Hello and welcome to Fierce and Flawless, the Female Project. I am Dr. Antonella Kaler and I am on a mission to find out exactly what it takes to build an indestructible foundation and achieve our best reality. I am thrilled to bring you stories of inspiring women who were fierce and relentless when pursuing their passions, who did not blame their struggles on so-called character flaws, and who took control to lead extraordinary lives. If you're a woman who is tired of feeling like your life is merely a product of cause and effect, and you are ready to be the woman that causes the effect, keep listening to learn the necessary insights to navigate life's toughest challenges, break through the most disheartening plateaus, and unleash your inner alpha woman. Hello, Alphas, and welcome to another episode of Fierce and Flawless, the Female Project. Today, we are extremely lucky to be talking to Julia Ryan. Now, Julia is a national level champion in Olympic weightlifting. Not only that, she is also a Ph.D. candidate in clinical psychology and a full-time dog mom. Now, Julia and I talk about a very important issue, and that is training for aesthetics or training for health, because those two things are not always the same. Julia is going to talk about her personal battles, her struggles, her mental blocks, and how she managed to overcome everything to be a true champion. She is going to be sharing with us her top tip to be motivated for life. My alphas, I give you Julia Ryan. All right, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for taking some time to talk to me today. I know you're pretty busy. You have a lot of stuff going on. You have a really busy life.
Yes, don't we all these days?
Yeah, that's the new norm, right?
Right?
Absolutely. So let's start with you telling our listeners a little bit about yourself, what your mission is, what your passions are, and kind of what you're all about.
Sure, absolutely. So, I'm an Olympic weightlifter and I compete at the national and provincial level right now. In addition to that, I do some coaching in Olympic weightlifting, and, when I'm not in the gym lifting, I'm, completing my Ph.D. in clinical psychology and, playing with my dog. And you know, those are kind of two different areas that I devote a lot of my time to. I think that together
I believe you mentioned three very important parts of your life.
True. That's true. My dog as well. Actually, you're right. They two all tie together. You know, what they have in common is that I think it's important to push ourselves to be the best that we can be. And that really drives me in my weightlifting because it's an area where I feel like I can constantly challenge myself and push the boundaries of what I thought I was capable of. And it also ties in with our mental health and our ability to recognize what we can do for ourselves, but really find out where those boundaries are and where we might have challenges with our mental health and our negative thinking and things like that. I find there's a lot of overlap between the kind of work that I do in clinical psychology and the kind of mental aspects of training that come up in my weightlifting. And then, you know, that all ties in with my dog because he's just the most mindful little dude ever. Like, I don't know if you watch dogs, but they just they don't think about the past or the future. They're just so in the moment, and I think we can all learn a lot.
Take a page out of that.
Yeah, totally.
Why didn't you tell us a little bit about how you got into the sport of Olympic weightlifting and your origin story? Because, you know, when we started out, like, CrossFit is making it a little bit more popular now, but I know when I started out, it was really a marginal type of sport that not a lot of people knew a whole lot about.
It's true. It is pretty niche sport. And, you know, now when I say I do Olympic weightlifting, people ask me if I've been to the Olympics. So I think that there's still some ways to go in it becoming a more popularized sport. But I just kind of fell into it. I had been doing some strength training, like at the YMCA. And I thought strength training at first, I thought it could help me prevent injury in some of the other sports I was doing. And then eventually I got into it more heavily and with more interest because I thought it would kind of give me the kind of body that I was looking for. But I ended up just really falling in love with actually just getting strong. And when I moved
because
to
let's face it, throwing around weights is a lot of fun.
It's actually like super fun. I totally agree with that. And just being able to see the very measurable progress of like putting more weight on the bar from week to week or from month to month, and just feeling physically strong. I got really addicted to that. But I didn't really know what I was doing. So I just kind of Googled like strength training in Ottawa, and this like Olympic weightlifting gym popped up. It's still called Just Lift to this day. And I kind of read their description about, this sport that requires flexibility and,
all around athleticism, sure.
Yeah, basically. And I was like, wow, that sounds amazing. Like, this is not what I thought I was getting into, but I think I want to try this. And, I just made my first appointment with them and got started. And it quickly turned into a competitive thing for me, probably because I'm just a very competitive person and I can't really do anything without putting my full energy into it.
And what are your maxes now? What are your lifts looking like?
Wow, I just made a 90 kilo snatching competition the other week. That's like just 2 pounds shy of 200 pounds. So it was like 198 pounds, which is just like, I'm still kind of...
It's unbelievable, yeah.
I'm absorbing that, I'm in this very weird phase right now in my training where I'm starting to lift numbers that I don't think I ever pictured myself lifting when I first started. Like they just seemed so far away and like only like these
like
really
untouchable,
crazy... right? Totally. And now I'm doing them, and yet at the same time it doesn't feel like the end for me. So sometimes in the past I've kind of gotten stuck at certain numbers because once I achieved them, I realized that I hadn't really give myself the chance to imagine myself doing even more. So that's something I've been working on lately. And now that I did that snatch, it felt casual. Like it felt like, cool, I did it. But I know it's not casual. I know to so many people out there, it's like, it's a huge thing. And to me, it's a huge thing too, because it's been a goal, but at the same time, I'm really excited about the future because I know I'm capable of more now. And I know that whatever I set my mind to, I can do it.
Exactly. Always content, but never satisfied, right?
Exactly. And my clean and jerk is around 110 kilos now. I say around because I've done it in training, but I haven't actually completed that lift around.
So you're looking at a 200 kilo lift total, give or take.
Yeah, give or take, yeah.
That's absolutely incredible. So, I know it's getting better these days, but still, a lot of women out there, they hear numbers over, 15, 20 pounds in terms of lifting, and they get all scared and they're afraid that they're going to be putting on muscle too fast. And that stigma is, still out there, isn't it? It's the era of the pink dumbbell, I think, is dying down a little bit, but it's still there.
Well, it's there in a different way. Like the pink dumbbell itself might not be there, but I still hear people saying that they're worried about getting bulky. People in our gym, like these are girls I know who are like squatting like 200, and so you think that those people wouldn't have that mentality, but it's definitely still there. I think it's just shifted a little bit. The aesthetic focus that a lot of us have, because when we think of muscular girls too, like maybe muscular girls that we aim to look like, really, those girls are still quite lean. Like if we look at a fitness model or
absolutely.
At like an Instagram person, like, yeah, we might admire muscle a little bit more now, but like not too much of it, and I think that still just ties into the focus that we have on our aesthetics, which, I've battled with this myself, and I think it's okay to care about how you look, obviously, and to make positive changes in your life, in order to make changes to how you look and how you feel. For me personally, though, it's been like so much more motivating to focus on what my body can do. And when I kind of have focused on that, my notions about like what's too muscular or what bulky means have kind of just disappeared, because it's not relevant anymore, and everyone's going to have different ideas of what's too bulky or too muscular anyway. So
Well, it's like they did that Sports Illustrated edition with all of the athletes in the Olympics to show just different body types and, how there's different bodies for different sports. And it's actually a crazy range. And if you have these athletes side by side, they look nothing like each other, but they're all the top in the world in their own sport.
Totally. And if I think of Olympic weightlifting, down in the States, the most recent female Olympic medalist and world champion is Sarah Robles, and she's a very heavy set girl. She's in one of the heavier weight classes, but she's at the top of her sport. Now, there's other people out there who are going to do their fitness endeavors for aesthetic reasons and health reasons, maybe mixed together. But I think the point is that we tend to want to focus a lot on how we look, but it's not usually all that rewarding in the long term, for me anyway. And this notion of bulky is such a hard to grasp thing anyways, and sometimes that thought is at the back of my head, I wonder if these people think that I'm really bulky. For sure, no. For sure.
Then you go to snatch at 90 kilos and you're like, who gives a crap what they think?
Exactly, right? That's exactly it. And actually, a lot of women, I think, the kind of body that they imagine themselves having is actually a body with more muscle on it. A lot of people just chronically diet thinking that they just need to keep losing weight to look better.
And then they're unhappy with what they see. Yeah. But it's it's because you don't have the muscle mass underneath. You're just a smaller version of yourself. But there's no definition because there's no muscle.
Exactly. And so mentally, to get past that idea, I would just encourage people to actually follow people on Instagram, look at photos of real life athletes or fitness people. Do they look bulky to you? And the answer is probably no. So just understand that everyone's body is a little bit different, and that maybe focusing fully on how you look is not going to be the most motivating thing for you, because we don't have complete control over how we look either, I know you made a couple of posts about spot reduction or things like that. We don't, even if we train and we diet, we don't have perfect control over how
I always tell people the only spot reduction that exists is lipo. So, unless you go in there with a catheter, there's nothing else that you can really do.
Yeah, so it's just that helpful to focus on these things that are out of our control, because that just makes us unhappy in the end. You might be the type to carry more weight on your legs, on your bottom half, and no matter how much you diet or train, that's just going to be the shape of your body, and living your life in a fight with your body is just not a happy life to live, So that's why I've come around to this idea that I really just like focusing on what my body can do, because then I'm so much more satisfied with my body in any shape that it is. Not to say that I don't struggle, because I have, especially in going up weight classes, it's not easy to put on weight and have my clothes not really fit properly. And at the time when I started, I was weighing I think around 64, 65 kilos. And relative to my height, the better weight class for me was going to be the 75 kilo weight class, which was 11 kilos difference, 10 or 11 kilos difference. That's 20 or 22 pounds. That's a lot of weight to say I'm going to gain that on purpose. And in the end, I've actually gone up further than that. So the other, I think, thing to keep in mind with weight classes is where you're going to be the most competitive. I think if you're a beginner and an intermediate lifter, you're just going to be stifling your growth by trying to chronically diet. There might be times when dieting for a couple of months is okay, but if you're constantly trying to keep your body in a smaller weight class than what you naturally want to sit at, and you're at a deficit most of the year, you're just not going to get as strong as you could if you were fueling, for muscle growth and performance. And when I actually just totally embraced going up in weight classes, when I started making a lot of progress again.
Sure. Now, what kind of advice would you have for somebody that's maybe not looking to be competitive, but they kind of don't know what they should be focusing on? Should they be leaning down or adding strength? Because it's one of those things, from a logical perspective, for example, I understand that, the bulking, building muscle, really, really important. So I dove right into a pretty aggressive bulking phase. And boy, did I ever learn the hard way that putting on muscle is really, really tough. But still, it's like, that that's what you're trying to do. And that that's what your goal is. But still, what, I put the scale away because it was starting to make me upset. And it's ridiculous because I know this is what I'm trying to do, but it's still this mental battle because you're so conditioned that, you gotta look at the weight, And I'd be, lifting heavier, get all excited, think that I'd be having a fantastic day, get on the scale, see the number up, because of course. And then that would just ruin the rest of my day. And I logically understand that that's stupid. And I explain this to people constantly, but it's still a very hard thing to let go of, even if you know that's not something that you should be concerned with.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a really tricky thing because we have these ingrained notions about weight and for a lot of us it's like really long standing stuff, that's hard. Like it happens to me too when I step on the scale and it seems heavier. Oddly, the more often I step on the scale for weightlifting purposes, the more my weight just becomes like a data point to me. So I'm very unattached to my weight right now, but I know that that's not the case for people who don't necessarily compete or who don't have those competitive goals. And I think if you're in this like primarily like for health and as a hobby and to feel good about yourself, then I don't see much of a reason to do much besides stay at maintenance level calories where you're feeding yourself enough to make some progress in the gym, albeit slower than if you were really feeding yourself at a surplus. You're gonna have a good time in the gym, but you're not gonna be putting up these crazy numbers like you're seeing on Instagram. And that's another thing that is a problem in the fitness industry is like Instagram. Like it can be so good, but people can use it to compare themselves to these people that they don't know anything about their life, about their history, about anything really, and they use it to compare themselves, and it ends up making them feel worse about their progress. So being careful about how you perceive other people in the fitness industry and trying to just focus on your goals and your life and what you're trying to accomplish.
People don't appreciate that. When you just look at a photo, you don't know the story behind it, and it takes a lot of times for consistent results. It takes years of hard work, so you might as well do it in a way that's enjoyable. You can't do years of hard work if you hate what you're doing. Right?
Yeah, I totally agree. And so if you're in that position where you really need to transform your life because you're in an unhealthy spot, then you need to be at a deficit and you need to find a way to make that work for you in the most comfortable way possible, while acknowledging that it's never really going to be fully comfortable to make changes like that. But if you're just an average weight kind of person, you're healthy, but you're trying to add something to your life, become even healthier, get a handle on your food, I wouldn't stress about bulking and cutting. Maintenance is actually fine because just the new stimulus of strength training, you don't need a surplus when you're a rank beginner. You're going to have these wonderful newbie gains and you really don't have to
it's a great stage. That's the golden era.
And enjoy the ride, don't be too hasty to get anywhere too fast.
I'm going to tie this into a little bit because you're Ph.D. and you said is in psychology. And so could you give some practical tips and advice in terms of how to help people out a little bit with their mindset? Because that's almost seems to be like the number one question people always kind of struggle with, consistency and motivation. They're trying to build habits, but then things kind of fall apart. And then if they're seeing progress, they're almost scared of progress and they start to self-sabotage. Like it gets quite complicated. Almost the better people do, sometimes the more scared they are of their own progress.
Yeah, I think my number one tip for mental strategies across all fitness levels and competitive levels is to pay attention to your thoughts and to journal them, because the solution to whatever issues someone is facing, it's going to be different for each person. What those issues are rooted in is going to be different, but the number one thing you need to be able to do is to recognize when you're falling into a negative thinking spiral, when you're having these negative maladaptive beliefs seeping into your thinking and into your training. And the only way to really become aware of it is to start paying attention to it, have somewhere physical where you can come back to it and consider it. And there's this trick where you can kind of keep going down the rabbit hole. So usually people are afraid of something. So I've made progress and now I feel like I'm a different person. Okay, what does that mean to you though? And then they can write down their thoughts around that question. And then their answer to that question is going to lead to another question. So you kind of just keep following the train of thought until you get to the real core. And you know you're at the core when you start getting really emotional. When
and really uncomfortable and figuring out things that you didn't want to figure out.
And it is uncomfortable, but we all have these hang-ups, these issues, you know, and it manifests itself in different ways in training. And when you feel like that cloud come over you, like that cloud of negativity, take out your notebook and just start writing down what's going on in your head. And don't worry about changing what's going on in your head, because we're often fixers. People who are into fitness and health and all of that, we want to fix things. We're problem solvers. So we want to fix those thoughts and get rid of them. But we have to sit with them first. You're not going to be able to really solve the problem and change your thinking if you skip to the fixing part and don't start by just sitting with it, sitting with the feelings, sitting with those negative thoughts, and trying to understand yourself a little bit better. And once you do that, the solution seems a whole lot more clear usually.
Yeah. Well, I think that you would agree with the thing that at least I try to preach, in the sense of, you know, you still, whatever this journey is, your fitness journey, you need to find an activity that you really enjoy, that brings you just joy on a day-to-day life. And to me, being able to get a little bit stronger, lift a little bit more, that type of joy does not compare to the level of happiness of, I hit my macros today. You know?
I agree. And like, for me, competing is really fun. So it really drives me to go to training every day, because I'm building towards a performance at the end of those 3 months or 4 months or whenever my next competition is. That is very motivating for me. So I think that's a really good point. Ultimately, it has to be something that adds to your life, and you're not just like torturing yourself at the end of the day, because
you can't do that forever. We have enough stress, you know. The whole fitness health journey is supposed to bring you joy. It's supposed to enrich your life, not consume it and destroy it.
We all go to work, we have jobs, we have families, we have stress, and a lot of those things we do because we enjoy them, but they are stressful. And at the end of the day, it's going to be way harder to make yourself do something that you don't enjoy, as opposed to doing something that you do enjoy, that you look forward to. And so I am 100% in agreement with you on that, to try out different things until you land on something that you really like.
Absolutely. So what's that book that you got?
Yeah, so it touches on this exactly. The book is called Willpower, The Power of Willpower. Rediscovering the Greatest Human Strength, Willpower by Roy Boymaster. This is like not your normal self-help type book. It's based on research that's been done in psychology science. Mm-hmm. This book focuses on understanding how habits work, how to form them, and how to not overwhelm yourself. Like, when you start a new job, that might not be the time to start a brand new diet and exercise.
A lot of people do actually, like, one thing goes different in their life, and they're like, okay, now it's time to do a massive overhaul. And this is when you have the New Year's resolution crowd who's like, okay, I'm going to work out this many times a day, I'm going to change my diet, I'm going to get more sleep, I'm going to get more light, I'm going to get more sunshine. And it's like this huge overhaul that's not doable. And then they try to do it, and they're like, okay, you know what, this is way too hard, screw this. And they go completely back, they abandon all of it. They start too much at once, and then they abandon all of it at once.
That's exactly it. And so this book is about how your brain is like a muscle, your willpower is a muscle, and you have to learn how to train it properly, but also by being realistic with what you're expecting of yourself.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience, some final nugget of wisdom that you want to let all the ladies know out there that are maybe thinking of lifting a little bit heavier, or just, struggling with their journeys in general?
Yeah. I think I just want to tell everyone, you're not alone in this. Like we have all been there. We are still on our own struggle. Reach out to people, talk about it. Don't suffer in silence. You're not like a special, unique snowflake that's been the only person to ever struggle with wanting to be skinny and get strong at the same time. Just reach out to people and understand that it's normal. You're okay. you're not going to fall apart. You're going to find a way, and we're all here for you. All of us women in the fitness community, we're all just trying to do our best, and we're going to make it. We're all going to make it.
I love that. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Julia, for taking the time to talk with us. That was a wonderful, wonderful discussion.
You're very welcome. I'm really happy to do so. And if any of your followers ever want to follow up with me and have questions about Olympic weightlifting or just talk about struggles, I'm here. We're not just hiding behind our Instagram handles. You send me a message, I will answer you. We can have a conversation.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thanks so much, Antonella.
Thanks, Julia. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey Alphas, it's Dr. Antonella from Fierce and Flawless, the Female Project. I cannot wait to bring you more incredible stories and exceptional insights from women who made an impact. So join me on this journey. Subscribe and comment with nominations for guests you would like featured next. I want to deliver content that ignites a spark in you, so your feedback is extremely important to me. To connect with me and to get the resources mentioned in this episode, visit www.thefemaleproject.net or add me on Instagram at dr.antonella. Thank you for listening and stay tuned.